You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
It got up to like $68,000. My heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
The internet will never be the same. You're listening to K98Talk.com.
Whoa! Good God, y'all. What is it good for? Absolutely. Let's get started again.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention please? America Off the Rails has been declared a conservatives-only safe zone. Only conservatives allowed from this point forward. Any liberal, socialist, butthurt, hippie, tree huggers, please exit the facility immediately. Again, attention please. America Off the Rails is now designated as a conservative safe zone only. All butthurt, tree-hugging, hippie, free-to-be, you-and-me types exit the facility immediately. Thank you.
We will keep this promise to the American people. If you like your doctor, you will be able to keep your doctor, period. If you like your health care plan, you will be able to keep your health care plan, period.
This is the most transparent administration in history. Not even a smidgen of corruption.
Fact is, we had 4 dead Americans. What difference at this point does it make?
If you got a business, you didn't build that.
Oh, welcome to the face. Welcome to the face of the new democracy. Don't expect us to admit a mistake. We're paying off election.
Keep on doing what you do, Rick. You're my favorite host.
It's time to hear the truth about America's biggest challenges. You're listening to America Off the Rails with your host, Rick Robinson.
Well, good evening, folks. This is America Off the Rails. I'm your host, Rick Robinson. We are coming to you live. It's just a few minutes past the hour right here, and you are listening to K98 Talk. So I just want to take a moment to ask everyone how their Easter was. I hope you had a good Easter weekend. It's officially, unfortunately, over now. I've been back to work at the day job now for 2 days and working my butt off behind the scenes here. Speaking of which, do have a couple of announcements. One I really want to make, but I don't have ink on paper yet, so I don't want to jinx it. But I have a couple of announcements both for the show and for the station. We are now in talks to bring another show over that will probably start airing. I believe they have settled on 6 o'clock Eastern, 5 nights a week. And I'll give you some more information about that as we continue to put ink on paper there. Also, we just added a new show that airs now on Saturdays and Sundays. Sadly, the terrible general manager and programming director that I am, I suddenly cannot remember the name of this show because the files they sent me today that I'm looking at that I wrote the notes off of didn't have the name of the show. Oh, that's what it was. It was Cooper Talk. That can now be heard on Saturday afternoon and Sunday afternoon. And we planned on starting it this week, but we didn't get there. Hear the Press will now start airing every Sunday evening at 7 Eastern, 6 Central. We're going to have an encore presentation of their episode that was supposed to air this Sunday, but due to Dropbox issues, they couldn't get it to me this Saturday, I believe, at 7 Eastern, 6 Central. So make sure you check that out. Also, the conservative curmudgeon radio show, America Off of the Rails, Game On with JD and Stacy, and the show with Dr. Arrington and Lou that is currently undergoing a name change. I think they have settled upon Wake Up America Radio, which is interesting because I actually did a show back in the day called Wake Up America when all this first started. But I have decided to go ahead and let them use the title. And all 4 of those shows have now been picked up and will begin airing soon on ICRN. It's a new internet conservative radio network, hence the ICRN. Been around now for a bit, but they did just pick up all 4 shows. As soon as we get days, times, and all that fun stuff, we'll definitely let you guys know. All right, so I think it's about time I take the PD hat off and actually get back into show host mode. There's just been a lot of things going on. Some of them I actually can't tell you yet, and one I forgot that actually is a bit of a feather in my cap and doesn't count until I send them my first article, but I am actually now officially a contributor for American Action News. I plan on starting that new venture with them here in probably the next couple of weeks. Want to go a little slow at first, make sure I'm sending them things that are actually good and not just cranking things out in the hopes that they're going to like them, and then I wind up embarrassing myself in front of 1.2 million people. Yeah, that would suck. But yeah, so anyway, so that's another big announcement. We have a couple of other things in the works, but I really can't talk about them yet. Let's just say there are some things possibly terrestrial related in our near future again. But I really can't give any other specifics other than that. Now that we've gotten all the behind-the-scenes stuff out of the way and kind of got you brought up to speed on what I've been working on like a crazy madman for about the last 2 months, let's talk about the news, shall we? We're going to talk about a lot today, and for those of you who can't see it, the title of tonight's episode is Are the Wheels Coming Off the Trump Train? You know, I've said it from day one when it was interesting, or to me it was interesting that they started using the phrase the Trump train to talk about his campaign and all the folks that were basically starting to jump on board with his campaign, especially considering 5 years ago I started a show called America Off the Rails. I'll let you draw the weird comparisons, because at this point that campaign has begun to seriously come off the rails. We're actually going to go into quite a bit of the different details about that tonight, some of which are going to be the recent denouncement of Michael Savage if the Trump camp doesn't move away from a story that they've let leak about Ted Cruz. I know everybody says they didn't have anything to do with it. I'm sorry. I don't believe in coincidence. Also, we're going to talk about the fact of the Washington Times supposed editor, reporter, whatever he wants to call himself, that tried to corroborate the story with absolutely no proof and basically was removed in his role from the paper. Actually, they were so flabbergasted by what he was doing at first, they tried to act like they didn't even know who he was. I'm not sure on that. It does make things look a little weird when you have the paper that you can show that was paying you say, yeah, no, you don't work here. Never did. But the point with that is there comes a time when you actually have to stand up for the things that you're saying and actually make sure that they make sense. Because the thing about this is, with all of it, is this has been a smear campaign from day one. There has been a recent article that's come out from one of Trump's comms directors, and one of the biggest things that everybody keeps talking about is how he has tons of them and all kinds of them, and as far as everybody else is concerned, it's a non-starter. But the interesting thing about this story is this person, who will actually go into a little bit more detail on this later, actually stated that what she was able to find out is the goal of the Trump camp in the beginning was never to try to win at all. It was to try to siphon off as many delegates as they could and try to make sure that they at least maintained second place. I wonder why it was that was their goal. Because there have been some of us all along that have been telling all of you guys that have bought into this hook, line, and sinker about this Make America Great Again, and everybody freaking out and flipping out and being like, oh my God, we're going to have this great businessman who's going to run the country, and he's going to do it right, and it's going to be amazing, it's going to be huge. No, it's going to be a nightmare. And the thing is, I don't even think he started out with the idea of actually becoming president. I think he started out with the idea of being a buffer. Does anybody remember that shortly before he announced, he decided that he was going to have a nice long phone conversation with one William Jefferson Clinton? Anybody wonder what that conversation was about? Come on, I know NSA, I know you've got some audio. Why don't you share it with the rest of the world? Because you and I both know what happened during that phone conversation, but nobody's ever going to admit it. The simple fact of the matter is, the Hillary camp has known they've been in trouble ever since the information leaked about the server. So they wanted a buffer. But this buffer has been twofold. This buffer has not only managed to make sure that at some point we will likely put up a nominee who cannot, even by the polling data of the folks that do nothing but polling data. I mean, think about this for a second. These are the folks that do this for a living, and they rerun these polls and rerun these polls and rerun these polls, and each time they do it, it comes out almost exactly the same every single time. There's usually 2, 3, maybe 4 that are variations, but Hillary beats Trump hands down in every single poll, save like 3 or 4. So you tell me why that is. Now, the really scary thing about this, if you stop and think about it, has been the overall and overwhelming support of the supposed conservatives when it comes to one Donald J. Trump. I don't recognize my party anymore. I don't recognize a good portion of the people that occupy my party anymore because they have so bought into the hype. You guys remember the same hype that we made fun of the Obama bots for in 2008 and 2012. You know, the part of my intro that I have that talks about, or not the intro, but the commercial that I don't play very much because I need to fix the hours on it, but it's nobody else's fault but mine because I keep changing my time slot. So can't blame anybody but me. But it's the nice little part that talks about the tingles that Chris Matthews got up and down his leg. How many people on our side of the aisle have gotten that same tingle over Trump? John Hannity, Michael Savage, the guy that you hear giving me a shout out at the beginning of my intro, Herman Cain, who actually shouted not me down but us down collectively as a group on Twitter and said that anybody that's not at this point falling in line with Trump is basically a traitor. So, and we're going to backtrack a little bit. We're going to kind of jump back and forth today. But I have something that I want you guys to hear because I don't know if all of you have heard it yet. And I know I've played it before on a couple of different shows. But just in case, because it all ties into what we're talking about today, I actually have the audio of the recent... this isn't the most recent. I couldn't grab the audio from that one yet. I heard through the grapevine that Trump was actually on Savage's show today. But I do have the audio from a few days ago when Savage calls out the Trump camp and tells them that he knows this is BS. So I'm going to let you guys listen to that just in case you haven't heard it yet.
But I don't want to focus on him right now. I want to focus on a story that's circulating in the media, and that's about Ted Cruz having had 5 extramarital affairs, which Cruz calls garbage. I find this to be disgusting, by the way, because I have been a victim of assassination by innuendo for my entire career, both from those who pose as constitutional conservatives who smeared me day and night, and others in the media. They've assassinated me by innuendo, and thus far I've survived it. It's not pretty to live through this garbage, but when it comes from conservatives, it's even more irking, because I thought conservatives were better than liberals. But no, they're really not better than liberals. It's just another business for most people. Now, I go where the truth is, so let me start with my opinion. This came out today from Fox 32 News in Chicago based upon a National Enquirer story that just broke, which says that Cruz was involved in 5 extramarital affairs, citing unnamed political insiders. Now, Cruz vehemently denied the claims today. Do we have the sound of Cruz, Robert? If we do, would you kindly play it?
The National Enquirer published a story. It is a story that quoted one source on the record, Roger Stone, Donald Trump's chief political advisor. Let me be clear, this National Enquirer story is garbage. It is complete and utter lies. It is a tabloid smear, and it is a smear that has come from Donald Trump and his henchmen.
Well, by what I have learned, and this is an exclusive to the Savage Nation, you're not going to hear it from anyone else, because no one has the sources I have on this story. I have sources. And let me tell you something. I support Donald Trump, but the scandal is false. That's what I've been told by someone who has a source, someone who I, let us say, work with closely, who I would trust with my life, has a source inside the Enquirer. He called the Enquirer, and he was told this, and this is all anonymous. I'm quoting now. He said, "We don't have it," meaning it's all innuendo. And it was written very carefully, implying it without stating it, to smear Ted Cruz. So I asked, who owns the Enquirer? And this source told me the Enquirer is owned by AMI. AMI is run by a David Pecker. David Pecker is a close friend of Donald Trump. David Pecker flies to Florida from New York on Trump's private jet. I was told, again, I can't confirm or deny it, that Mr. Pecker, what a name, is personally involved in the anti-Cruz stories. Now, I don't blame Donald Trump, but if he finds out that this Pecker is behind it, he should get rid of this connection, because this is not going to help him at all. David Pecker is chairman, president, and CEO of American Media, Inc. AMI owns the National Enquirer, the Star, the Globe. So, my friends, in my opinion, this is utter garbage, and Cruz is rightly offended. This is assassination by innuendo. It's important you hear this. It's real important that you hear this, because I go where the truth is. I've supported Trump, and probably still will, but if he won't disavow this guy Pecker and this story, I may withdraw my support from anyone in this campaign. I'll tell you right now. I have nothing to gain or lose personally from it, unlike many in the media who are tied at the hip to the candidates they support. I am not going to support anyone who engages in assassination by innuendo. And so that's all I want to say on that matter.
All right, folks, so there you have it. Now, some of you right now are asking, well, Rick, you've already played this on Friday's show. You played it on the Sunday show that you did for Red State, which is the same one that you aired last night because you took the night off. So why do you keep playing that clip? And, you know, the reason I asked this out loud is this is a conversation that I had with someone today who shall remain nameless. No, it's not anybody in the chat room, so nobody started looking at each other because it wasn't any of you guys. But what I did have to do was explain why it is that I've been playing that clip so much. This was because, you know, there's been all these gotcha moments in the media. Well, this will be the one. This will be the time that he can't come back. This will be the time when things start chipping away. This was the first visible chink in the armor for me. Because if you have listened at all to Michael Savage over the last several months, first of all, congratulations. You are probably a better person than I am, because about 3.5 months ago, I turned the guy off because I couldn't do it anymore. Just like Hannity. I don't remember the last time I watched Hannity on TV. I usually maybe catch about 15 minutes of his show on the ride home. And that's only because I make myself listen to it anymore, because it's all Trump all the time. But this was the first chink in the armor, and I'll get to something that I noticed on Hannity's show today that we'll probably talk about when we get back from the break. But one of the things that's been driving me crazy is no matter what this man says, no matter what this man does, he has been literally, and this is going to be an interesting pun because a lot of folks say this about people, but he has literally been Teflon Don. Nothing the man says or does has been able to stick to him. Nothing has been able to come back on him until now. It's finally starting to happen. But the scary thing is it's not anything that he's doing directly. It's the people that he's associating himself with that are finally starting to chink away at the armor of this supposed brilliant business mogul. You know, the guy that says, hey, I'm going to surround myself with the best and brightest people. We're going to figure out ways to get this done. Look at the people that he is choosing to surround himself with. He has a best friend who owns the Inquirer, who has been using it since Bush was in the race to smear his opponents. Nobody's called him on it up until now. This isn't the first time, folks. This is at least the second or third time that I know of that this has happened. But nobody's called him on it. I wonder why that is. You know, when Bush was in the race, the Inquirer started running all these stories about him being caught up in the drug trade when he was governor in Florida and doing this and doing that and all of the different crazy things that he did. But nobody talks about it. But see, here's the thing that nobody wants to take into account with the Inquirer. This is not an actual journalistic type organization, folks. I know everybody wants to look at like everybody and kind of put them on the same level playing field, but here's the thing about the Inquirer. They have been skirting the edge of getting sued for decades. Decades. They know exactly where to push, they know exactly where the line is, and they tiptoe right up on it, and they toe pick right at the edge. For those of you who don't know what a toe pick is, if you've ever seen the ice skaters, when they like get skating really, 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 really fast, and all of a sudden they just jump up and right on the edges, and the tips of their ice skates lock in, that's a toe pick. It's basically you're getting to the point where you are at a dead stop and you're completely vertical and you're just there. And that's exactly what they do. They get as close to that line as they possibly can, and they don't cross it. Now, me, on the other hand, I don't ever claim to be a reporter. Will probably never be a reporter, even now that I contribute for American Action News. My goal will be op-ed pieces that promote things that I've talked about on the show or things that I plan on talking about on the show. So still will not be a reporter. So I, on the other hand, typically take one look at that line, take a nice running start at it, and jump right over the bitch. Because it's how I roll. But these guys can't do that. The reason they can't do it is because they run the risk of being sued because of how they actually still technically present themselves. So everybody's been talking for days now about how if this story in the Inquirer weren't true, Cruz would be suing them, or Cruz would be more vehement, or Cruz would be more upset. Look, I don't know if the story's true or not. We will probably never know if the story's true or not. What I find amusing is someone who's admittedly already cheated on pretty much every single wife he's ever had and been through several divorces is trying to tout someone else's infidelity as the reason that they shouldn't be president. Look, I am not a choir boy. I will freely admit that at one point I did help preach in a small church, but I am not a choir boy. I understand that these politicians do things all day long that they're not supposed to do. I guarantee you that a lot of you that are listening to my voice right now, if you really had to look at yourself in the mirror, could think of at least once or twice that you did something completely stupid that you hope never, ever, 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 ever sees the light of day. So who are we to judge? For one. But for two, look, there's no nice way to put this. Cruz could be running a train on midgets, and as long as he's holding up the Constitution, I don't care what he does. That's not a poor reflection on me or a poor reflection on you. It's how desperate I am to get this country back on track that I really don't care who does what in their bedroom to whom, as long as they are upholding the Constitution and making sure that our government works the way that it's supposed to. Now, that doesn't mean that if this story turns out to be true, that I will continue to have unwavering support for the man, because he does go around holding his Bible up quite a bit. But my parting shot with that, before we get ready to start taking the break here and move on to the next subject that I wanted to talk about today, is as someone who used to preach the gospel and used to go to door and used to sing songs and used to actually have sermons, again, who are you to judge? Because everything that you've ever done has been forgiven. Everything that you will ever do has been forgiven. That does not mean that you should continue to do those things, but it also is to mean that if you slip and fall and you do something stupid, you are not to have it held against you. It really is about that simple. My point is, no one but Cruz, Cruz's wife, And any of the women that are involved, if there are women, and God, are ever going to know everything that happened. It's not any of our business. It's really not. And it pretty much is that simple. All right, so I kind of went off on a bit of a tangent there for just a second. Yes, Slick, I just said bitch. I know you don't hear me cuss that often, but it does happen. Sorry, I'm just getting caught up on chat. I like coming on this early because I actually have people hanging out in the chat with me. That doesn't ever happen when I come on late. So thank you for those of you that are hanging out in the chat with me. All right, so at this point, I think we are going to go ahead and get ready to take the break. When we come back, we do have lots more to talk about. Don't go away. And tomorrow night, we will probably have a redo of the most recent Hillary's server segment, because I'm getting ready to do, or start hopefully getting ready to put together the next one. But so far, that's only aired a couple of times, and I want to make sure that it goes out as much as we can. Want to give a big thanks to Eric Williams for barbwiresatire.com for helping me put that segment together. For those of you who've heard it before, he is the mastermind behind those emails. All the ad-lib stuff that happens before and after, that's all me. So if you don't like that, send me the nasty email. He does the masterful work on those emails, not me. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back to finish up the show. Don't go away. All right, folks, this is Rick Robinson with you. I want to tell you about some friends of mine from a company called Security Enforcement Specialists. When I ran my security agency for 12 years, I worked with one of these partners on a daily basis. He's been involved in this agency now, and with his other partner, they do have over 30 years of experience in the private security industry. If you own a business and you need someone to keep you or your customers or residents safe, then I highly recommend contacting Security Enforcement Specialists today. Give them a call at 405-703-1796. Again, that's 405-703-1796. Again, tell them Rick from K98 Talk sent you. Like I said, if you need the help, they are here for you. So make sure that you go look them up, check them out, and see what they can do.
Wrong way. Welcome to the place. Welcome to
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement, and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method, and to get your free report, go to 29security.com. That's the number 29security.com. 29security.com. Go to 29security.com.
We will never fully understand what we've asked of our military service members or their families, asking them to put themselves in harm's way, to endure it all. But we do understand that it's our turn, our duty, to keep them secure for the rest of their lives. Wounded Warrior Project long-term support programs help our most severely ill or injured veterans live independently, at no cost, for life, so that they might stand at ease. Join us at findwwp.org.
The staff of K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network is proud to announce that our very own Rowdy Rick Robinson has been selected as one of the top conservative talk show hosts in the nation for his program America Off the Rail. Again, congratulations to Rowdy Rick Robinson for a job well done and another reason to stay connected to K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network.
Calls, we got a pen and telephone to bypass all your laws.
All right, folks, we are back. We are live. This is America Off the Rails here live on K98 Talk. Now, we are into the last half of the show, and as promised before we went to break, I did mention that I wanted to talk about something that I heard on Hannity's show today, and this is yet another one of the examples of the things that just annoy the crap out of me. Hang on, let me just go ahead. Okay, that's enough of that. We can kill that now. Okay, so the drive home. I get off work about 4:30 my time, which is about 5:30 Eastern, which usually lets me hear, counting commercials, probably about 15 to 20 minutes of the show. I typically turn it on only because, I don't know. I mean, this is going to sound like a fanboy moment, but before I started doing this type of thing, Sean Hannity was one of the ones that I looked up to. Rush was one of the ones that I listened to a lot, but I never really idolized him as much. Only because he always kind of came across a little too uppity for my taste. Now, Beck, on the other hand, before he started going a little nuts, yeah, he was the guy that really got me into talk radio, because I remember him starting right before, in my market, he started right before all the September 11th stuff started. So he was the guy that really drew me into talk radio, because he was usually the guy that was on when I was getting my kids ready for school and everything else, back when I was still running my security agency. Not exactly sure what else happened to him. I know he's had some health issues, and I still like and respect the guy a lot. I actually saw him while I was at CPAC, and I thought that was pretty cool. But sometimes it just seems like he's on a completely different playing field than the rest of us, and I'm not sure if that's a good thing. But anyway, so back to Hannity. He had everybody on his show today. Like, he even had the people behind the scenes unmuting their microphone talking about what a bad rap this guy from the Trump campaign was getting about the charges that were pressed on him today. And I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name. I've heard it said a million times, but I still can't get it right. And I'm just not going to butcher the guy's name. Not only that, but I'm really tired of hearing his name. But one of the things that I kept wanting to scream at the radio, and honestly, for the first time, I really thought about calling in. But first of all, 20 minutes left of the show, who the heck's going to get on the phone with Sean Hannity unless you've been on hold already for an hour at that point. But from my background, I will tell you something that it seems like nobody that is involved in this situation seems to understand, or that is commenting on the situation from the sidelines seems to understand. He was charged with simple battery. It's not quite the same thing as assault and battery. Simple battery is any unwanted or unrequested touch by anyone acting in the capacity of a private citizen. That is exactly who this man was. He was not in any way, shape, or form, or in any capacity at that time behaving as a member of Trump's security team. He was not supposed to do what he did. Now, of course, Hannity all day today was like, I say all day, I only listened for like 20 minutes. I didn't see it. I'm looking at the video. It skips a few times, so maybe we can't see everything that we should see, but I just don't see how she was able to get charges pressed. Because he touched her in a way that she didn't want, which is by definition battery. See, here's the thing, folks. This is the thing that nobody that doesn't ever do this for a living or work in law enforcement or as an attorney or other things will ever understand. You do not have to touch anyone to assault them. If you move with the intent to do injury, you can be charged with assault. If you connect, it becomes assault and battery. If you are touching someone in a way that is unwarranted and they tell you to stop, which I'm sure she did multiple times, and you do not, and you are not either at that point in time declaring that they are under citizen's arrest if it's legal in your area, or acting as a member of a deputized law enforcement group, then you are guilty of simple battery. This is why they pressed charges. They reviewed the tape. They saw that the contact went on for several seconds, and that there were several different times that he could have disengaged and he chose not to, and that is why it is simple battery. If you do not like that, that's not my fault. That is the law. It is plain, simple, cut and dried, no gray involved, black and white, the law. And the simple fact of the matter is this arrogant nozzle probably could have stopped any of this from going as far as it did if all he would have done is said, hey, I was afraid for the candidate because of something that happened a few days earlier, and I'm really sorry that happened. I will do my best to make sure that I don't ever have anything like that happen again, and I'm sorry if I caused you any distress or any pain. It was not intentional. That probably would have stopped all of this right then and there. But the arrogant group, the Trump train, they don't think any laws or rules apply to them. It's evident right here to the fact that they don't think that the same rules and laws that apply to you and me do or should apply to them. And again, it's the people that he's associating himself with that are slowly tearing down his campaign. By design or by coincidence, I'm not sure. Because again, if we go back to the story that was just leaked a couple of days ago, he was never supposed to get this far anyway. He wasn't supposed to be trying to win. It was never anybody's intention to get him to the point where he could win. He was only supposed to siphon off delegates. In essence, folks, he was supposed to be the Kasich. Except Kasich did it better. Yeah, my dad's a mailman, the guy that basically is trying to use the presidential election cycle to make sure that he becomes postmaster general, is out-trumping Trump. Let that sink in for just a second. Now, the reason he's out-trumping Trump is more of a bad reflection on a lot of the folks that we used to consider conservatives more than it is on Donald Trump. Because I don't know how many people that I know that I've liked, that I've respected, that I have actually on Twitter, gone the rounds for and with when other people have engaged them and started calling them names or battering them or talking about how stupid they are and all of the other crazy things that go on social media. I swear if it wasn't for the fact that I'm trying to build a station and build my brand, I probably wouldn't be on social media. The only thing that's positive that have ever come from my interactions with social media are some of the folks that are sitting in my chat room right now and the folks that I talk to on Facebook that don't drive me crazy. But that is getting to be a shorter and shorter list. It's almost to the point where it's not worth it anymore because this whole campaign cycle has gotten everyone so polarized that it's insane. But that's part of the problem. Because with this polarization and with this whole group of people that think that the same rules and laws that they've been screaming about for the illegal immigrants and for the folks that they feel have been able to unfairly take advantage of things like affirmative action and all of the other crazy laws that they have been watching and they've been complaining because the rules don't apply to everyone else. Now, all of a sudden, that the shoe's on the other foot, they think the rules shouldn't apply to them. And you see this over and over today on social media with all the people that are supporting, I believe it's Mr. Landowski. I'm going to go ahead and try it. I probably butchered it. But I have to say this. I don't care if you are someone who makes millions of dollars a year on a TV or a radio show, or whether you're Joe Schmo down the street. If I know you and you are condoning or supporting this man, I would prefer to never speak to you or hear from you again. Because the simple fact of the matter is, what he did was wrong. And he didn't ever have to escalate it to this point other than the fact that he felt the rules of law should not apply to him. So for all of you that are condemning the lady involved in this, and supporting him, if you can hear my voice, please do me a favor and turn off this station and never turn it on again. And I know that sounds like a very odd statement from someone who's trying to build a radio network, trying to build a radio station, and trying to get some of the shows onto more and more terrestrial markets. But with listeners like you, I don't want them. Now, if you are supporting Trump, and you can be cordial and civil and hold a conversation with me and explain to me why you think he's the best guy without resorting to name calling and all of the other things that the majority of his ilk do, then by all means, please continue to associate yourself here. I am not telling you who to vote for, but I am telling you if you cannot control your behavior, or if you condone someone who did legitimately assaulting a woman, saying that they should get away with it, I would prefer to never associate with you again. Please make sure that happens. You know where the door is. And it really is that simple. I mean, look at all the different ways that this has blown up over the last few days. You heard them talk about the whole, I don't even remember his first name. All I can ever remember is his last name. So anyway, Good Friday of all days. There's a hashtag going across Twitter, Trump loves Pecker, because of this idiot in the involved in the Inquirer situation that is apparently helping Donald Trump take out anyone that opposes him in the presidency. What was that about? Press remaining neutral? Anybody? Bueller? You know, that's the thing that they always complain about when, you know, the press is helping Hillary, or when the press helped Obama in the last 2 election cycles. Oh, that's wrong. They shouldn't do that. Oh, look what they're doing for our guy. Isn't that wonderful? The hypocrisy burns, folks. If you are not okay with it when they do it, when it's the guy you don't like, but you're cheering when they do it when it's the guy that you do like, you are a hypocrite. The press shouldn't be picking sides anyway. I'm not part of the press. I don't have that distinction. I am considered a media personality. It's not quite the same thing. I give you my opinions. It's what I get paid to do. My opinion, at some point, when I realized that at this point, if people did not start speaking up, that we would likely wind up with Donald Trump, I felt I didn't have a choice. Some of you have listened to the show for a very long time. You heard me in the beginning of this election cycle. I told you I wasn't going to pick a side. I was going to stay neutral. I was going to let you decide, because you were the ones that had to do that, because that is your right. But the more things that came out about Trump and the less the media was talking about them, the more I just decided enough was enough. I mean, you have to be able to stand up for something, and that's one of the reasons why I don't really fault the media when they do the things that they do, but it's also why you never really hear me complaining about it when they do what they do either. Because I can't be okay with it on one side and not okay with it on the other. But if I can find a way to be okay with it when they do both and realize that it's probably their own way of trying to do their job in the best way that they can, that's a completely different story. But simply put, that's not even what they're doing. It hasn't been what they've done for a very long time. They're focusing on what can make them money. What is going to get us the most people opening up this page? What is going to get us the most people clicking on this link? What is going to get us the most people tuning in? You know, I can't necessarily fault them for that either, because everybody that's involved in this type of stuff is looking for a way to make money. I, however, will not do it by selling out my principles, which is what's happened during this election cycle. So many people that I trusted, so many people that I believed had conservative interests at heart, have sold their soul to make sure that they kept getting their ratings, to make sure that they kept getting their sponsors. And one of them, I really can't fault him. And this is going to surprise you. But with all of the trouble that Rush got into years ago, and all of the different times that he's been protested and they've had sponsors yanked, I almost understand why he's doing what he's doing. Because he has been the top of this game now for decades in conservative talk radio, whether anybody wants it or not. You are seeing You were wondering where I was going with this, but we're about to tie it all together. You are seeing the same thing being played out in talk radio that we have been complaining about in D.C. for decades. The people that are on the top are trying to find a way to make sure they remain on the top, regardless of who it hurts. It's the same thing. It's the same thing I've been trying to tell you guys all along for 5 years. Human nature is human nature, and it will continue to play out the same way over and over and over again until we consciously decide to make changes. And that is why I've told you from day one, whether this makes me a dime, whether it gets anybody listening, I will do what I can do to bring you what I believe to be the truth of the matter, of course, sprinkled with my opinions. And that's what I'm doing today, and it is what I will continue to do for as long as I have access to a microphone, for as long as I have breath, and for as long as I have a voice. Because it's the only thing that I can do. I don't know if it's just me, because I really don't understand how so many other people can't see this, because to me, it is an exact parallel, and nobody else is talking about it. You are watching the guys like Rush and Hannity and Savage, three of the biggest guys in radio, that are all over this, or at least were. Now it's down to 2, maybe 2.5, because Savage still admits he's probably going to support the guy. Maybe. But I wonder why that is. I mean, Slick in chat earlier had dropped a few other names like Coulter, who apparently from Scuttlebutt may be starting to distance herself from Trump as well. I haven't been able to find any evidence of that. At least not yet, but I haven't actually started looking at either, because I just started noticing people mentioning it today. But this is the same thing that we keep watching happen over and over and over again. And we told ourselves this time we were going to get it different. This time was our time as conservatives to put forward someone who actually embodied the things that we believed in, so that we could show the American people the clear, delineated differences between an actual true conservative and the complete bastardization of the liberal movement. Because I know people that are classic liberals, and they are just as disgusted about what's happened with the Democratic Party as the rest of us are. Because this was never the intention. It was never the intent. But we had a moment, one moment in time, to be able to rest back, to turn the country in the correct direction, start moving slowly to put it back on the right path, and we have nearly pissed it away. At this point, even with the narrowing, I do not see a clear way for Cruz to get to the magic number. I don't necessarily see a clear way to see Trump get to the magic number. And despite what the rest of the conservative media is telling you, I will not tell you to throw your support behind the guy that has the most votes if he does not have a majority, because the Constitution is very clear. The rules, not the Constitution, but the rules for the nominating process are very clear. The nominee must have a majority. If not, there are rules set in place that have to be followed if there is no clear majority attained. Do I like those rules? Not necessarily. Do I think that some of the rules that were put in place in this last convention were geared towards the fact that our side was completely positive that we were going to win, but we were afraid at some point there might be someone slightly more conservative decide to try to primary Mr. Romney, or possibly maybe even somebody like Ron Paul come back into the scene? I think that's why you hear about so many of these weird rules that are now a part of this particular convention. They were trying to make it impossible for who they assumed was going to be the incumbent Republican president to be primaried. And all they have managed to do is nearly single-handedly hand the presidency, at least the nomination, to Donald Trump. Now, the other thing that's been driving me crazy, and we are nearly out of time, but I'm going to go ahead and touch on this real quick. The other thing that has been really driving me crazy is, again, all of these people that keep telling me that because I refuse to support Donald Trump, that I am, in fact, a de facto supporter of Hillary Trump. Nothing could be further from the truth. But I will not sell out the same principles that I teach my children every day that they need to strive to uphold and strive to maintain, all to make sure that someone with an R behind their name gets into the White House. And if that makes me a Hillary supporter in your eyes, then I'm not so sure I should be insulted by that, because obviously you never knew who I was in the first place. All right, folks, so we are almost out of time. I want to give a big shout-out to a couple of sponsors. I don't do that enough. I want to give a shout-out to concealandcarry.net. It's pretty easy to find. Open up the web browser of your choice, put the word conceal, the letter N, the word carry, then .net right behind it in that browser. Hit enter. It will take you a map of the continental 48 states. I don't believe they yet have anything in Alaska or Hawaii. But click on the state you live in. You'll find all kinds of information about where you can go to get ammunition, weaponry, and training for said weaponry. And we do encourage you here, as strong supporters of the Second Amendment, to exercise your constitutional right to bear arms, and to do so with sufficient training, even if your state is constitutional carry. That's right, folks. I don't mind if you open carry. I don't mind if you carry based on the information for the Constitution, as long as your state allows. But as someone who has carried a firearm for a living, I do have to strenuously object to you carrying it in public with no training, because that's going to get you or someone else killed. So please carry responsibly, regardless of what your state tells you you should do. Also want to give a quick shout out to politibrick.org. Pretty great organization, and obviously in an election cycle, if you watch as much news as I do, every so often you feel like throwing something at your television. They have saved my TV now more than once, because they have these nifty little things. They look like bricks, but they're not. They're made out of foam, and they have pictures of all the candidates that you like, some of the candidates that you hate, and even some really controversial figures. I do believe they have one for Che Guevara. I've considered burning that one, but thought the wife might get mad at me, because knowing me, I'd probably catch the house on fire. And the scary thing is, folks, I even live in the country, and I'd probably still figure out a way to burn my house down. But anyway, so they have saved my TV more than once during this election cycle, because I have to watch all of the debates. I actually forego to town hall tonight to be on the radio with you guys, but you saved me from having to listen to Trump. So in this point, I would just like to say thank you for all of you listening right now, because you gave me an excuse to not have to listen to the windbag with the bad hair. But yeah, so feel free to go look them up. Pretty easy to find, politibrick.org. Put that in your browser. They do, at last check, still have a special running. You can get all 6 of the bricks they offer for $5. And again, they're great. They're interesting little party things. You can even kind of leave out maybe the couple of candidates that you're leaning towards, if there's more than one left in your race for the moment. And maybe spark a conversation sometime. Wouldn't necessarily encourage you to bring out the one about Trump, only because I've done that recently, and it started conversations in my house I never wanted to have, man. All right, so on that note, folks, we are out. This is Rick Robinson. I will be back with you live tomorrow night right here on K98 Talk, and we will also be on WNJC Thursday afternoon at 2 Eastern, and we will be on AMFM247.com tomorrow at 1 Eastern, and we will be on SHR Media tomorrow at 11 Eastern, and Leading Edge Radio Network tomorrow at 8 Eastern in the morning. So at this point, if you really, really like to listen to me, you could listen about 4 times tomorrow and get away with it. I don't know why, but if you do listen everywhere that I'm heard, I would like to take a moment to say thank you about that. Again, this is Rick Robinson. I'm the host of America Off the Rails. I'll be back with you live tomorrow night. It'll be here before you know it. But before we talk again, make sure that if you find a way to get involved, that you please do so. Put down the remote, get off the couch, and try to find a way to make a difference, even if you disagree with almost everything I just said. Unless you're voting for Trump, then please sit back down. Nah, I'm just playing. I'll be back live tomorrow night, folks.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
It got up to like $68,000. My heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.